So now we're going to be doing the circumference of a circle. So the circumference, after we've learnt all the parts of the circle, is the total length around the outside of the circle. So it's like a perimeter, all right, total length around the outside of the figure. So all the way around. Okay, so what we're doing now is trying to find out how to find the circumference. So Greek mathematicians a long time ago worked this out. So very, very clever people when they work this work out for us. So there's two formulas that we're going to learn. One is when you've got the radius given to you, and the radius is indicated by the letter R, which makes sense. The formula is C equals 2 pi R. I'll explain about pi in a minute. So the C stands for circumference, which makes sense, first letter of that word circumference. The R stands for radius, and the pi I'll explain to you in a minute. Now, if you've been given the diameter of the circle, we can use this formula, C equals pi D, where C is the circumference and D is your diameter. All right, now talking about pi, so make sure you've got your calculator with you. All right, so pi is spelt like that, P-I. All right, there was a movie made with this word in it, Life of Pi. Now, pi has the symbol that looks like this. This is how I draw it. I draw two lines, and then I draw a little curve like that above it. Okay, that's the way I do it. I think it's the easiest way to do it. You'll see sort of slightly different versions of it, but that's how I do it. Okay, so that's its symbol. That's the word, that's its symbol that you see in your formulas here. All right, now, pi is actually an infinite decimal. This decimal goes on forever. There are no repeating sequences in it, so it's not a recurring decimal. It just keeps going with different patterns of numbers all the way through, and it just keeps going forever. So it's an infinite decimal. Now, I know that that's the first number of digits, but it does continue forever with no pattern. All right, so it is actually on your calculator. So if you get your calculator out, I'll show you where it is. And right down on the bottom row here, and you can't even see it, can you? But the middle key, the one that says times 10 to the x, if you look a lot closer in yellow, that's the pi symbol. Okay, now because it's in yellow, we have to press shift before it. So if I press shift, and then I press that key there, which if you look in yellow, you can see the pi symbol. So we press that key, and it comes up with the pi symbol on your calculator. Now, if you press equals, it tells you what pi equals. All right, now I haven't included that last digit, which is the 4 there, when I wrote this down. That's because the last digit on any decimal on your calculator is rounded. So I don't know if that last digit was a 4, or whether it was a 3 and then it had something like a 9 after it. So I've left that off, but that's the first number of digits. Okay, so looking at some questions on this. The first one says we're calculating the circumference. Now, you can see they've given you a diameter. So I'm going to use this formula here because I've got a diameter. So I've written the formula down. So now we know there's a times between those two things there. So we're going to next write down pi times, and the diameter is 8. So now we're just going to the calculator, and we'll just start again, clear your calculator. So we're going to press, we want to press pi times 8. So we're going to do shift, and that key down the bottom there. There's your pi. Now press times 8. So it'll look like that on your screen. Press equals, and you're going to write all of that down. Okay, and this question here wants it rounded. So we're rounding to 2 decimal places. So 1, 2, that's less than 5. So we're going to keep that 3 as it is and copy everything in front of it. And we're in metres. And it is a length, the circumference. It's a curved length all the way around the circle. So it's just metres. We're not doing area or anything like that. All right, the next question, we're finding circumference. And then they've said something interesting down here. It says, calculate it in terms of pi. Now, what does that mean? It means that they want pi in the answer. So they actually want that pi symbol in the answer. So let's start doing this question. All right, now we have been given a diameter here, so I'm going to start with C equals pi d. So now we're going to put in our diameter, which is 3. So it looks like this, pi times 3. Now, if the question said to you that they want it in terms of pi, they want pi in the answer. So we don't want to be going to the calculator on this, okay? You're not going to change it to a number. You're going to leave it with a pi in it. So all we need to do is put the number first and then pi, and that's it. It's finished now. You've just got to write centimetres on the end, and that's your answer in terms of pi. All right, let's look at the next question. We're finding a circumference again, and this time you've been given a radius. So we're going to use the formula that's got the radius in it, which is C equals 2 pi r. There's your radius. So now we're going to sub our numbers in. Don't forget we have times signs here. So it's 2 times pi times, and the radius is 6. And now we're going to our calculator. We're going to write the whole decimal answer down. So let's go. We're doing 2 times shift pi. We can see the pi coming up there now. Times 6. And then press equals. And we're going to write that answer down. Always write down your full decimal answer. Okay, now this question wants us to round to 1 decimal place. So we're drawing our line after 1 decimal place this time. Look at your next digit. That's 5 or more. So this is going to go up by 1 to 7. And everything in front stays. And we're in metres this time. Okay, now the last question, number 4. Calculate the exact circumference. I'll talk about exact in a second. They've given you a radius, so we're going to use the formula that's got the radius in it, which is C equals 2 pi r. All right, so now we're going to sub in our radius. Oops, don't forget your times signs in here. So we have 2 times pi times the radius, which is 7. Now, when they ask for the exact circumference, remember that I said to you that when we do pi, it's a decimal that goes on forever. It's not exact, okay, because we can't ever end that decimal. It just keeps going. So it's never going to be exact if we use that decimal. It's never going to be exact if we press the pi key on the calculator, because it's even rounding it off even more. So that's never going to give you an exact answer. So when they use the word exact, it means they want pi in the answer. So it's a different way of asking the same question. They can say in terms of pi, or they can say exact. Both of them mean they want pi in the answer. So I want to keep this pi. I don't want to go to the calculator. So all you have to do is do the 2 times 7 part. You can use your calculator for that bit if you want. And get 14. And then you write your pi on the end because we want it in the answer. All right, now let's look at what units we have. It's centimetres. Write that on the end. And that's the end of the question. Okay, so today's lesson, we've done the parts of the circle and we've done circumference. Only the basic questions at this stage, but in the next lesson we're going to go through some harder questions on circumference. So make sure you do your homework so you get practice with the easier ones before we get to the hard questions.